Hi, Mark. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Alex.
First question, tell us a little bit about your background. What did you do before and what you're doing right now?
Well, look, I've had kind of varied background. Predominantly, it's been in big business. It's been in consulting. It's been in. I've spent some time in the advertising sector. I've done a lot of management consulting. I've had a very varied background. Taken me to a lot of places, seen a lot of things, worked with some big brands, and today's and for the last 12 months, been working very hard on the building of the Espressogrow business.
Espressogrow, what it is? What do you guys do?
Well, we're kind of a hybrid business model, I suppose you'd say. We've got a waste extraction program where we take waste from coffee retailers. And the second part of our business model is a fertilizer product that we use the waste from the coffee retailers to produce an eco-friendly fertilizer product. So it's a hybrid because we provide a service to the retailers, and we provide a product at the end of that, which is the Espressogrow fertilizer.
How do you find your clients? I mean, the retailers, the coffee retailers. Do you strike the deal in advance, or you do it another way?
Well, it's been an interesting exercise. In Australia, we have a number of big brands in the marketplace, and I'm kind of honoured in a way to say that all of those companies have approached me to be part of the program. So we've developed a business model and a brand which people like to talk about, and through that public relations and marketing, those big brands have come to us. So that's one way we've found them. But when we work in a certain geography, and at the moment we're in Australia, we work with all the coffee retailers in a certain geography. So if we're in a Sydney or a Melbourne or a Brisbane, we approach those coffee retailers that are in and around some of our big clients. As you can imagine, I know when I was in London in February, there's 1,775 coffee retailers in a very short distance of one another in London. And where there's a Pret, there's 5 or 6 other competitors. So that's no different here in Australia. So that's the way we find our waste suppliers. And because this model hasn't been really attempted on this scale before, it's a very easy conversation to have when you walk into a coffee retailer and say, hey, we want to provide a free service, take your waste, provide you with a dollar for the waste. It's a very easy conversation to have, I must say.
I didn't see any other companies of your kind. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, it was having a coffee, which was kind of bizarre in a way, but it was having a coffee in a small coffee shop here in Australia. I had a conversation with the barista at the coffee shop, and I often say to people he was having a bad day, and I was just trying to brighten his day by talking to him and making conversation. And I just asked him, where does the waste go after he makes a coffee? And he said it goes straight into the bin. And the second question was, well, how much do you go through a day? And I was surprised by his answer. He, again, a very small coffee shop in the context of things, he was going through between 10 and 12 kilograms of coffee every day. So looking at a standard trading time, we're talking about 3.5 ton of coffee ground waste going straight to landfill, which costs him money to get rid of. So that was the conversation which led to me doing a hell of a lot of research about, what coffee grounds could be used for, and what programs were in place for coffee retailers to recycle that waste. And the first thing we found was anecdotally strong support for coffee grounds waste as a fertilizer byproduct. And the second thing we found was there was no coordinated waste recycling program specifically for coffee grounds in Australia, nor anywhere we've been able to find in the world. So it was a very innocent conversation with a guy having a bad day, and I'm thankful that I took the time to talk to the guy because he gave me a very valuable bit of information that we build a business on.
So in a way, Espressogrow got really huge sort of social mission. Are you guys an enterprise which is properly, privately funded, or you have some support from the government, from Australia?
No, we're 100% privately funded. We have opportunities to go through the process of seeking government support. That may be something we go to in time, but it's not a focus for us at the moment. We've been lucky enough to be able to privately fund the business to this point. And when we have the time and energy and effort to focus on government grants and the like, we will go and seek those. But the last 12 months and really the last 6 months where we got really serious about the business, it has been overwhelming. I like to say it's a 26 by 8 week. It's long hours, it's every day of the week, and it's great fun. But we just haven't had the time yet to focus on going to the government and talking about it. But, something we'll look at definitely.
How many people are currently involved into your company?
Well, at the moment we've only got a small team of 4 full-time employees in the business. We do a lot of outsourcing with some of our waste extraction and some of our manufacturing capability, just to keep costs down and keep the business model lean and mean, as we say. So there's 4 full-timers, but we've got a very good company board, and we've also got an advisory board in place who are people that my business partner Jeff and I have long-standing relationships with, who have had strong business skills and experience in a whole range of sectors, who provide us help as well. So lean and mean is the focus for us as a startup venture.
So once you come up with your business idea, what was next? How did you raise funds, and how did you make a business plan, if you did any?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It started with conversation with people that that are really close to us, who would tell us very honestly if it was a bad idea or not. So those were our friends, they were work colleagues that we took the idea about to start with. And we sought their counsel, we talked them through the concept, and that's where we got a lot of our good initial feedback. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure which one, but as an entrepreneur, you are always short of time, and you always want things to go much quicker than they are. So I haven't spent the time in developing a business plan. I've got a PowerPoint slide deck of about 15 slides, which captures everything that we do and how we do it. And everything else is in my very small head, or my very small brain, I should say, because I'm not that clever. But that was really the way we sought advice. I went to people who had transport and logistics experience, who I've consulted with in the past, and said, well, how do we move stuff from city to city quickly, efficiently, etc., and got that advice. Went to others and said, well, how do we build a brand that is, reflects the qualities of our business, and got that insight. So we've done it in a very smart way in seeking the guidance of people who, again, would say, Mark, you're silly, this is a bad idea, go back to your day job. But getting their advice really helped us in the initial stages. On the funding perspective, funding is a very difficult thing, and 6-8 months ago, I thought it was absolutely easy thing to do, to go out into the marketplace with a great idea and say, hey, this is me, we're going to conquer the world, please give me your money. There's more to it than that. You do have to do a lot of work in the background on the funding side. Funding for our business has only really started. As I said, we've been self-funded up to this point. We're out in the marketplace now talking to some investors to help us with some of our seed capital to launch the product really seriously in the Australian market. And then some of that capital we utilise to launch the business into other regions around the world. So on the fundraising, that's really just begun for us.
What was your biggest fear during the first days of your company? Did you have any initial concern regarding the business?
No, not really. You always have the fear of failure. I mean, it's a common human instinct. You don't want to look like a fool amongst your family and friends. For me, that's not too hard because I look like a fool all the time. But you don't want the thing to fail. You want to be able to have a good idea and back it up. But for me, it was all these things started to make sense. We're getting very positive responses from the market. We've had big businesses in other regions in the world approach us and want to partner, and that for us gave us the courage and the devotion and passion to do what we're doing. And again, you don't want to look foolish and think you've got the good idea that's going to fail, but that's just a natural human thing, and I think every entrepreneur will go through that. Everyone who doesn't execute their good idea is scared of failure. We see that a lot. I find it really interesting now. I get a lot of people coming to me pitching their good ideas, which is really cool in one way, but you see why they don't take the next step, because it's a real fear of failure. Jeff and I, we have the ability to go back into the world that we came from, into the corporate world, earn good money, live a good existence, if this doesn't work out for us. So we haven't had any real fears today. Those fears might come in the future, who knows?
Speaking about the future, what's the next step for Espressogrow?
Well, we'll launch into the Australian market in the next 3 to 4 months. That's the first step. The second step is we're currently negotiating a range of distribution relationships in places like South Korea, New Zealand, Spain, the Netherlands, Indonesia, Malaysia. There's a lot of interest in what we're doing, so we're currently in the negotiation phase, and that'll be the next phase of activity. And then mid next year, we'll be looking very, very hard and making a commercial decision around setting up our infrastructure in places like the UK and in places like the US, which will be a key marker for the growth of the business.
When we speak about Espressogrow, what do you think is the biggest advantage of this company compared to the others?
Well, we're illustrating the benefit and opportunity that recycling and reuse has for new products in the future. So there's so much waste that goes around us every day, and you only have to look very close to home around, recycling as an opportunity for a business. So that's the first thing. So we're providing a valuable program and service to coffee retailers. That's firstly. They can now go, in partnership with us, they can go out in the marketplace and make a really strong message around their focus on sustainability. You look at the coffee industry has been fantastic in supporting organisations like Fair Trade and make sure beans and the like are coming from suppliers who are treated well, who work under good conditions. But where the industry has lacked, I suppose, from a sustainability perspective, is a lot of their waste goes to landfill. So for us as a business, that's one great advantage we can offer our suppliers, or our real true customers, I suppose, for our business. For our end consumers of our fertiliser product, the fertiliser's organic, it's natural, it doesn't have any harmful chemicals that sits within it. It smells like coffee. So I don't know if you've smelled anyone's garden that's full of chook manure or cow manure, but that's exactly what it smells like. Espressogrow smells like coffee, which is pretty cool. It also has slow release qualities as well. So you can feed your garden plant with Espressogrow and it'll provide a level of sustenance for the garden over a period of time. And also our price point for our product is sits well within the price range of the premium products and the low-end products. And good point to make around organics is one of the key challenges with taking an organic product to market is the price point. consumers want to support good environmental practices, but not at a significant cost to their wallet. So it was important to us in the early days to get the pricing right. So, our product has all those characteristics and capability. It'll be the first of its type really at a large-scale retail end to be available in the markets we're going to be operating in. It's, again, a good example of good environmental practice right through the supply chain.
We had several questions for you from our website. The first one comes from Fred Cook, who asked, how do you find those talents who work in your company?
How do you find the talents? Look, it's an interesting question. We're a big believer in, our company culture and making sure that the people that work within our business feel that they're, a critical part of it. And for me, it's really getting the attitude right and finding people with very strong work ethics, good sense of fun, people who are willing to take a risk, people who are willing to back themselves. They're the talent that we want inside our business, and it really comes from experience in our own professional lives where there's probably times that we've done work that we really didn't enjoy and really didn't love, and we did it for the money. And our company culture and what we want to set for the future is an environment where people come to work because they love it and they get looked after and well respected, and at the end of the day have a good time doing it. So talent is one thing, attitude's the right thing for us. It's not about what your CV looks like. It's not about what university you went to. It's not about even if you went to university. It's really about being passionate about, the opportunity that we have in taking this product to market. And that's really how we find people. I have a saying here that, in Australia, we're very good about having, barbecues at home with our friends and families and enjoying time together. And, the people that work in our business, they're the people that we want to have barbecues with. Anyone who deals with our business, they're the kind of people we want to be around. So, a good positive attitude is, what we really look for when we look for people to work with.
Question from Todd Hunt. Where can you buy Espressogrow from, and what is the target cost per 2 kilograms bag?
Well, in Australia, we're working through some discussions with the major retail network, your do-it-yourself kind of environments, large hardware chains, nurseries, and the like. So that's the most likely point we'll be in Australia, and most probably around the world through those chains. We're thinking about some opportunity to sell the product direct where that makes sense. So we might do some online fulfillment and sales. The 2 kilogram price, the retail price, will really be about how well we negotiate with our distributors. But a 2 kilogram bag of Espressogrow should retail from anywhere between $10 and $16. That's really where the price point needs to be.
Question from Aaron. What's your personal salary per year?
Oh, not high enough is probably the way I'd answer that. We're a startup business. We're not drawing a salary. We're covering some of our costs for, our upkeep for our families and the like, but we're not really drawing a salary, and probably won't be drawing a salary for some time. So we're getting used to being poor. So we're good with that. But it's a good question. One day in the future we might, pay ourselves a decent wage. But that's some time down the track.
So let's wait a little bit.
Probably a while, I'd reckon.
Since you've been in the different environment before, and right now you're self-employed, what you say the biggest difference between working for yourself or working for some other company?
Sometimes when you work for other companies, you almost need to, in most cases, you really need to adapt to their environment. I've certainly worked in companies. I worked in some wonderful companies, had wonderful experiences, but I've also worked in companies where the culture is one where you can't be yourself. And I suppose where the benefit is in building your own business, it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to run an agenda which might be different to the corporate world. And for me, that's the real exciting thing about setting up this business and setting up the culture. And is you set it up in a reflection of the environment you want to work in. And I suppose that is the major difference in working in I suppose bigger business, more sophisticated businesses. I would think you need to sometimes leave your personality at home and you go in and become someone else. That for me is a bit of a strange situation. I find it kind of difficult to comprehend sometimes when I see people in their private life being very different to what they're like in the workplace. And the beauty is we don't need to worry about that anymore.
You already touched this topic a little bit. What do you think is the role of university for the career of entrepreneur?
Oh, look, I think university has a great deal to offer in the development of your skill base and understanding. But a person with a degree with a bad attitude is still a person with a bad attitude. I think our universities are great at developing intellectual horsepower and intellectual capital, but I think probably where a lot of people get or misconstrue the value of a university degree is if you go into the corporate world, and again, if you've got a poor attitude, you're going to be found wanting. And it's a careful balance. It has always been a careful balance. I must declare I was a high school failure and didn't go on to do any kind of tertiary education because it just wasn't what I was suited to. But again, for lots of people, it's a very handy skill set to have. And, I'm a very big supporter of people going through that process. I think as well, people really got to reach out and find some life skills and put themselves in a situation where they can learn stuff on the street, so to speak, around, how consumers behave and what people want and what they're passionate about, what drives them. And, there's a very, very important balance there.
What did you enjoy doing most when you were about 8 years old?
Well, when I was 8 years old, I was very heavily into sport. Until I was probably 20, I actually thought I was going to be an elite sportsman. And when I got to 20, I realised that I wasn't good enough, basically. Or maybe didn't have the right attitude towards sport. But when I was 8, that was a long time ago. It would have definitely been revolved around sport, and it would have definitely revolved around my family.
How do you manage to find the balance between your working life and your private life?
That's a very difficult thing to do at times. I've got 4 young kids under the age of 11. 11 right down to 2, and they need my time in generous amounts. I'm very lucky. I've got a very supportive, loving wife who probably where I can't spend the time with the kids, she backs me up there. She probably makes a few excuses for me at times, but the life balance thing's been very important. Will always be very important to my private life. It's sometimes it's working late at night or getting up early before the kids rise out of bed. I like to take them to school. I'm involved in coaching my 2 oldest sons in their sporting team, so I get to spend time that way. I think you just got to work different ways. Again, work late at night, work early in the morning. I try and reduce the amount of time away from home through travel and the like, but that's sometimes difficult. The beauty of the internet is, when I can't see my kids physically, we can jump online and have a Skype call, which is, great use of technology to get that life balance in play.
Normally at the end of our program, we have a table tennis question set. When you ask some simple questions and then you pick up the answers at the end.
Sure.
Okay. Steve Jobs or Bill Gates?
Steve Jobs.
iPhone, BlackBerry, or HTC?
Had all. I'll go with the iPod.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee, definitely.
Going to a party or staying home?
Staying home.
BMW or Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Fruits and vegetables or fast food?
Fruit and vegetable.
Egg or chicken? What came first?
Definitely the chicken, but don't ask me to justify that.
Being married or not being married?
Being married.
God believer or atheist?
God believer, in part, yeah. Okay, this is Mark Henderson from Espressogrow for In2up.